Evidence secured at marker 4. Advise command we are holding the scene.
Copy that. It's getting heavier out here.
It touches our hearts. Our officers are human just like everyone else, and they're their parents, their grandparents, and it affects them as well.
Cleveland police swiftly identified and detained a primary person of interest right after digging up this deeply disturbing discovery. A mother systematically eliminated 2 of her daughters, stuffing their bodies inside suitcases buried 25 feet apart by a school, yet intentionally left her 3rd child breathing. The autopsy is complete, but authorities strictly sealed the cause of death. Nobody knows how these young girls perished. Nobody knows exactly when they stopped breathing. Nobody knows why not the police, not prosecutors, not a single expert until you process exactly what investigators pulled from that house and the specific warning a neighbor gave DCFS before authorities found the bodies. Only then does the timeline form a terrifying logic. The truth sits far beyond your worst expectation. Aliyah Henderson simply did not fit the profile of a killer. That is not editorial spin, but exactly what the official record dictates. 0 prior criminal history. 0 documented violence. Charging documents cite no psychological crisis and no prior encounters with law enforcement. Authorities arrested the 28-year-old, instantly hitting her with 2 counts of aggravated murder and child endangering. Look closely at this mugshot of Aliyah Henderson. Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Office logs officially place her inside the county jail just moments before 8:30 that Wednesday evening. This marks the only time deputies booked her there. We meticulously excavated her past, verifying that Henderson possessed no apparent criminal footprint. Court filings confirm a judge evicted Henderson from a Park Hill residence in 2022. Her landlord accused her of skipping rent from September through November of 2021. The original lease confirmed Henderson claimed she lived there with 2 young girls. Digging deeper, official records catch Henderson legally altering her last name in 2017. This birth certificate displays the name Aliyah Brick, sitting beside the municipal paperwork cementing her transition to Aliyah Henderson. Cleveland police currently hold Henderson on 2 counts of aggravated murder. The department flatly refuses to clarify her connection to the victims. Prosecutors tied those aggravated murder charges directly to the tragic deaths of Amor Wilson and Mila Chatman. They attached the child endangering charge to the 3rd child, Vom, the solitary sibling pulled out alive. Prosecutors did not hesitate, dropping the absolute heaviest charge the Ohio criminal justice system allows. Bypassing manslaughter and negligent homicide, they struck twice with aggravated murder. Yet they released 0 motive, 0 explanation, and 0 psychiatric history into the public domain. Henderson offered no statement. Looking from the outside, she projected a quiet, entirely ordinary life, right up until a dark window between 2022 and March 2026. That was the window she slaughtered 2 of her daughters, discarding them in suitcases buried across an abandoned baseball field bordering a school. Notice the crucial detail almost everyone glossed over when the headlines hit. Aliyah Henderson was a manufactured identity. She legally scrubbed the name Aliyah Brannis off her record to become Aliyah Henderson back in 2017. She executed this change at barely 19 or 20 years old, leaving a permanent trail in public databases. Nobody provided a stated reason. In complete isolation, a simple name change signifies nothing. Everyday people alter their names for perfectly innocent reasons. But what happens when you stack that maneuver against the eviction, the forced homeschooling, and the permanently blocked father? Add the sealed autopsy, and the innocence completely evaporates. You see a suspect intentionally building a wall of pure friction between herself and ultimate accountability. She deeply understood that fewer eyes track your movements when nobody can trace your past. She secured that exact name change when Amor Wilson was approximately 1 year old. Mila Chatman likely had not even taken her first breath. Those girls grew up recognizing their mother exclusively as Aliyah Henderson, a carefully constructed identity, carrying absolutely 0 historical baggage. That intentional name change successfully accomplished another objective everyone somehow missed. It cleanly and permanently severed Henderson from her own mother's surname, lled Brannis. A 2019 photograph published by the Plain Dealer at a Cleveland health screening captures Aliyah Henderson clutching a toddler-aged Amor, while Henderson's mother, lled, cradles a nearly 2-year-old Mila. The camera documented both girls alive and enveloped in family. Just 7 years later, 2 of them quietly rotted beneath the dirt of an empty field. Amor Wilson was 10 years old, an age perfectly suited to attend a legitimate school. Had the broken system actually allowed her inside one, she was old enough to make friends, pick a favorite song, and claim a preferred seat. Old enough to understand the situation escalating inside her house, while having absolutely no outside voice to cry out to. Mila Chatman was 8 years old, just 8. Chatman, Mila's shattered father, remembered his daughter as a happy-go-lucky kid, wearing a permanent smile. She obsessed over the color pink, deeply believing she was a literal princess, a true kid's kid. When I stood at this exact spot a couple of hours ago, observers had left very few stuffed animals behind. Look at it now. Piles of toys blanket this grave, and the second one, 25 feet away. You can clearly understand why Chatman drowned in pure grief and blinding anger, brutally slamming into the reality of this horrific truth. Someone dug a shallow grave in an empty field. They tossed a piece of luggage into the dirt. Inside that suitcase rested a dead child. Chatman walked slowly through the rain toward that exact shallow grave holding his buried daughter. "I have hunted for my daughter for 5 years," he states, detailing his endless calls to CPS and court visits seeking emergency custody. He begged the police for welfare checks. They denied his access every time. Authorities found the 8 and 12-year-old girls partially buried inside a suitcase at the field edge behind Gann Academy in South Collinwood. Chatman currently works directly with police to legally verify he fathered one of those little girls.
I'm still in contact with the detectives. We're doing the DNA samples, so I get more details within the next couple days.
The mother of his child constantly relocated specifically to avoid him, Chatman states. He last laid eyes on his daughter while helping purchase her kindergarten clothes.
You're thinking, what you're feeling, believing that your daughter has been murdered.
What I'm feeling is hate. I ain't gonna lie, I feel hate. But I asked you numerous occasions, just give me my daughter. If it's too much for you, just give me my daughter. I just want my daughter.
Standing before her burial site breaks him. A friend holds him up for support.
I don't get how you can hate your own kids enough to kill them, to bury them, to do all this, and go right there to that home, right there, and live there where your kids is dead right here, and go be a mother to another child. Why you just killed your other 2?
Today, Chatman demands complete overhauls to the system that stripped away his chance to parent.
Change these laws, make it better. Men do have a say-so in their child's life, married, unmarried.
I contacted Child and Family Protective Services and the Cleveland Police Department directly. I asked if they interacted with Chatman or administered his DNA tests. Observing his body language and hearing his voice confirms one absolute truth right now. He stands here a grieving father. Who were they? Amor Wilson and Mila Chatman shared blood as half-sisters. Aliyah Henderson birthed both girls, though they had different fathers. Amor took the surname Wilson. Mila carried the surname Chatman. The Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner officially verified their half-sibling bond through DNA testing. Both Cleveland girls had fathers who fought desperately to reach them. Their mother registered both as homeschooled. That meant no teachers or counselors existed. 0 mandatory reporters laid eyes on these children during the critical years preceding their murders. If this case is new to you, drop a comment below letting me know your viewing location. This channel breaks down active global cases. Knowing your location determines our next investigation. Who saw the warning signs? Both fathers recognized the danger long before authorities unearthed those bodies. The actions these fathers took remain the most damning element in a case overflowing with damning details. Chatman knew something was terribly wrong. He warned them for years. "I have searched for my daughter for 5 years. I call CPS constantly." He navigated the courts, filed for emergency custody, and demanded police welfare checks. They denied him access entirely. They denied every entry point. He utilized every parent channel available: CPS, courts, emergency petitions, police checks. He exhausted them all. His Fox 8 interview reveals even worse facts. He spent 5 to 6 years fighting to retrieve Mila, while Henderson constantly left town, constantly moved, and constantly dodged him. CPS explicitly told him they lacked authority to intervene because the girls possessed a home and beds. He pleaded, "When it was something so simple, just give me her. You feel stressed? Give me her." Chatman last saw his daughter in 2020. Mila was exactly 3 years old. Throughout his subsequent 5 to 6 years of relentless attempts, nobody opened that front door for him. He learned Mila lived her final days entirely within view of her own future grave. Someone buried his daughter inside a suitcase in a field visible directly from the street. The system kept him locked outside every door he knocked on for years. Process that human reality, rather than treating it like a policy debate. Did he simply stop trying? Deshaun Chatman filed the correct paperwork and stood before judges. He missed work for hearings and repeatedly voiced his deepest fears. At every single stage, authorities claimed they lacked enough evidence. They told him to try again. He filed at least 5 to 6 emergency custody petitions according to his own records. The system answered no every single time. This case forces questions beyond what Aliyah Henderson did inside that house. It targets every single institution that looked at this family and chose absolute inaction. It highlights the rejections a man faced while fighting to reach his own child. Landlords evicted Aliyah Henderson in 2022. That eviction surpasses a simple housing record. It serves as a crucial evidence anchor. Her lease proved she lived there with 2 girls, meaning authorities documented Amor Wilson and Mila Chatman as alive in 2022. These victims only lived in government documents. That single detail changes everything. When detectives finally unearthed the girls' heavily decayed bodies, proving they sat underground long before anyone started looking, finding their exact expiration date became the biggest hurdle. How did they die? Authorities locked those files. Officials refused to declare when these murders occurred, but a 2022 eviction gives detectives one baseline. We know they breathed in 2022. That creates a blind spot lasting 3 to 4 years, where Aliyah Henderson kept both kids totally hidden from any educational authority. 0 social workers conducted standard welfare checks, and 0 peers questioned their sudden disappearance. Media outlets usually ignore the science of bodily decay, yet that specific factor fundamentally controls this prosecution. Severe decay destroys forensic accuracy. Medical examiners lose their ability to pinpoint exact timing when nature reclaims tissue. Estimating death shifts from a specific calendar day to a vague window. That estimate could easily cover 12 entire months. This vagueness severely complicates things for the prosecuting attorneys. They must connect ignored welfare requests or rejected custody filings directly to the time frame when action could have saved lives. That explains why officials hid those autopsies. State attorneys are likely scrambling to narrow that timeline down before presenting facts to the public. The courts informed Deshaun Chatman he lost access to his child simply because Henderson constantly relocated. Getting evicted in 2022 forced another move. That constant motion kept her trail freezing cold, yet active enough to dodge accountability. Amor Wilson and Mila Chatman received at-home education. Opting out of public school is legal. Handled correctly, it provides incredible benefits. That scenario ends here. We must evaluate what home education enabled, looking past academics, straight into structural isolation. The real focus remains invisibility. Registering a kid in public, private, or charter facilities guarantees adult supervision 5 days a week. Educators spot physical marks. Guidance staff track sudden psychological shifts. Cafeteria workers flag physical weight drops. Fellow students question an empty desk. Academic institutions operate as a massive, unspoken safety net, strictly protecting vulnerable youth. Nobody engineered it that way. Kids simply remain visible within active communities. Amor Wilson and Mila Chatman lacked every safeguard. 0 instructors raised alarms. 0 friends ever asked, Where did Mila go? Blank attendance sheets triggered 0 state-mandated checkups. Whatever went down inside those walls occurred entirely off the radar. Society never breached the front door. Ward Councilman Mike Polinsk represents the South Collinwood district, where police recovered the victims. He explicitly highlighted their at-home instruction during his press release, labeling it a primary factor behind the massive investigative gaps.
Councilman Michael Polensik says he wants accountability for whoever did this and justice for these girls.
What kind of monster demon would do this to 2 children? Just throw them away like they're garbage. No, not here. Not in Collinwood. No, that don't happen. We're not going to put up with that. We want a resolution. We want these 2 children. There's got to be justice for these 2 kids.
Attending class guarantees someone watches over a student. Absolutely nobody outside that front door kept tabs on these 2 girls. Combine the 2017 name swap with the educational isolation, add the property removal, then factor in the denied visitation rights. A clear pattern emerges, showing a household methodically blocking out every single government agency capable of saving their lives. First time watching? If you want hard facts and deep case breakdowns, hit that subscribe button right now. I break down every single investigation with this exact intensity, and the follow-up video is currently hitting the editing bay. Did someone intentionally build these barriers to hide a crime from day one? Detectives refuse to state that, and I will not claim it today. However, the final result mirrors an entirely intentional cover-up. Year after year, barrier after barrier, both youths vanished completely from the radar of every single protective agency equipped to rescue them. Monday night, March 2nd, 2026, a local walked his dog near East 162nd Street and Midland Avenue, crossing an empty field bordering Gin Academy in South Collinwood. The animal caught a sharp odor. The owner dialed 911. 5th District Police units sped to the scene. Arriving units unearthed a piece of luggage shoved inside a shallow, messy dirt plot. It contained a minor's remains. As forensics processed the perimeter, investigators struck a second piece of baggage jutting out of the soil, exactly 25 feet away. Inside sat another female youth. 25 feet equals 1 school bus. That takes fewer than 10 steps. The killer dumped them practically side by side in a public lot. Dogs roam here constantly. Kids from the neighboring campus boot soccer balls across this exact grass almost every afternoon. Crime scene techs transferred both bodies straight into the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's facility. State attorneys later stood before a judge and confirmed severe tissue breakdown across both victims. Cleveland Police Chief Dorothy Todd announced detectives suspect the luggage remained underground for an extended duration. The exact time frame remains a total mystery. Todd officially released another update.
Just after 6 p.m. last night, the Division of Police received a call to respond to the area of East 162nd in Midland. The callers stated they had found what appeared to be a body inside of a suitcase at this location. The officers responded out and located a deceased individual that was in a shallow grave inside of a suitcase. The officers immediately began their investigation as they canvassed the area for any potential evidence on scene. The officers located what appeared to be a second shallow grave, and they could tell that there was a second suitcase in that location. The officers at that time identified that there was a body inside of that second suitcase as well. The medical examiner's office responded out, and they took custody of the individuals and for their further investigation. So we completed our investigation on scene. The only updates we have at this time are that the individuals are 2 juvenile black females. The one individual is suspected to be anywhere between the ages of 8.5 to 13. The second is estimated to be of the age of 10.5 to 14. At this time, there are no clear indicators of the cause of death of the 2 young females, and we're asking if anyone has any information saw anything suspicious in the area, that they are to contact the Cleveland Division of Police Homicide Unit at 216-623-546.
Autopsies revealed both victims remained completely intact. Authorities also verified that local databases contained 0 active missing person alerts, matching these specific physical profiles, which proves just how thoroughly both youths vanished from every single municipal system. Not one single person raised an alarm, because the very agencies designed to track them down, educators, local residents, state welfare agents, had absolutely no idea these girls existed. Who were they? We got our answer quickly. Within 48 hours, task force members breached a target property along the 700 block of East 162nd Street. This house sat right next to the makeshift graveyard. Cleveland authorities secured their raid authorization by aggressively interviewing neighbors, sweeping the perimeter, and analyzing local security cameras. Inside those walls, investigators uncovered 2 things. First, substantial physical material linked directly to the bodies. Second, they stumbled upon an unharmed third youth living under the exact same roof. Agents from the Cuyahoga County Department of Children and Family Services immediately assumed protective custody over the surviving youth. Detectives handcuffed Aliyah Henderson Wednesday evening. By Thursday, authorities indicted her on 2 counts of aggravated murder and severe child endangerment. Friday morning, March 6th, the suspect faced Cleveland Municipal Court Judge Jeffrey Johnson. She remained chillingly silent throughout the short arraignment. The magistrate offered her good luck before slamming his gavel, prompting a simple 2-word reply from her: "Thank you." Prosecutors detailed the grim allegations at her bond hearing. The state declared the accused stood before them for directly orchestrating the tragic deaths of her own 8- and 10-year-old daughters. Search teams pulled their heavily degraded remains from shallow dirt trenches hidden across Cleveland inside standard zipped luggage. The bench mandated a $1 million penalty per aggravated murder charge, pushing her total to $2 million. Meanwhile, defense counsel argued she maintained stable housing and actively sought employment. The state acknowledged her completely clean rap sheet. Ultimately, the horrific accusations and community risk justified his $2 million ruling. Henderson remains locked inside the Cuyahoga County Jail, but a major secret lingers. The truth just hit a massive wall. The coroner finished examining the slain sisters, only to immediately lock down the findings. This never happens in standard protocol. Normal murder investigations bleed forensic data into the open slowly. Officials confirm how someone died, then classify the fatality. Journalists pull these details directly from legal motions and preliminary court dockets. The narrative eventually takes shape. A strict gag order proves a magistrate, a prosecutor, or perhaps both, realize that leaking the autopsy reports today would actively detonate their ongoing inquiry or sabotage the courtroom strategy. Every major player involved already understands exactly what killed Amor Wilson and Ma Chatman. Detectives, state attorneys, defense counsel, and the presiding justice all know. Yet, they collectively agreed or faced a strict mandate to keep the public in the dark. Legal precedent outlines several specific triggers for burying pathology reports during early litigation. First, the fatal mechanism proves so bizarrely unique that publishing it gives opposing counsel a massive head start to engineer an alibi before a jury sits. Second, the methodology points directly toward unindicted accomplices roaming free. Broadcasting those clues would inevitably torch a secondary hunt for unknown suspects. Finally, the trauma might be so intensely gruesome that broadcasting it completely poisons the chance of seating an unbiased jury for the trial. The justice system fears that outcome. Furthermore, these 3 motives operate completely independently. All 3 distinct scenarios could be happening right now. This blackout screams one absolute truth to us. The moment forensics unzipped that discarded luggage, assessed the horrific contents, and swept the surrounding property, they locked eyes onto a detail so radioactive it demanded an immediate legal vault. They secured a piece of evidence that permanently derails the state's grip if it leaks today. I am not guessing. What horrific truth demands a gag order? We will find out. But first, Consider the sole survivor pulled from hell. If you have tracked this nightmare since day one, tell me exactly why the state locked down the autopsy. Base your theories strictly on the crime scene analytics, ignoring baseless rumors. I comb through every single reply. The community debate is already raging below, so jump in right now. When detectives breached the target home at 700 East 162nd Street, the property directly bordering the soil, hiding 2 dead bodies, they discovered an unharmed youth breathing quietly inside. Let that horrific reality sink in. Skip the sensationalism and focus purely on what this proves to the Criminal Behavioral Science Unit. An unscathed kid signifies relentless daily maintenance. Someone actively provided consistent food, clean laundry, and affection. This proves Aliyah Henderson spent those exact days, weeks, and months actively cooking, washing, and caring for a living dependent simultaneously, while 2 deceased victims rotted inside separate luggage 25 feet from her front porch. Faking that level of biological wellness demands highly calculated, continuous, and deeply intentional maternal effort, leaving the behaviorist screaming one final, terrifying question. 2 young girls ended up dead, while a third sat unharmed in the exact same house. Why spare one while eliminating the others? That question haunts investigators. Authorities refuse to answer that. Nobody offers a confirmed public statement, while this criminal investigation stays active. They withhold her motive. A sealed autopsy might explain this horrific differential, yet officials keep it buried. Forensic psychologists categorize selective filicide when a parent murders specific offspring but spares others using established analytical frameworks. Professionals look for differential bonding between mother and child. They analyze favoritism tied to different fathers, or whether a parent perceives a specific child as a threat. They examine delusional states where a mother internally categorizes children in ways nobody else can possibly understand. Experts also track patterns where abuse violently escalates against specific targets, while siblings stay entirely protected. Not one named official publicly applies these frameworks to Aliyah Henderson just yet. The court keeps her psychiatric evaluations strictly out of public record. I am not claiming which psychological framework fits her here. Nobody is. I am handing you the lens investigators use to analyze this differential. The reason she kept one daughter breathing almost certainly explains why she slaughtered the other 2. It is one question spun in 3 terrifying directions. Who noticed? Long before police discovered those bodies, someone picked up a phone. Kreider called. Court TV and local Cleveland news programs identify Kreider directly as Henderson's close neighbor. She moved into that East 162nd Street duplex around when Henderson arrived. Kreider told reporters she contacted Cuyahoga County's Child Services. She reported deep concern over what she specifically labeled erratic behavior from Aliyah Henderson. Listen closely to her exact phrasing. Erratic behavior, not visible harm, not physical abuse, not obvious violence. Erratic behavior means Kreider watched how Henderson physically moved outside.
To this home on East 162nd Street. From the sidewalk in front of it, you can see where her daughter's bodies were found.
She never let her kids come outside, play. None of the kids engaged with those kids.
Deshae Kreider, who shares the duplex with Henderson, says she too called protective services about Henderson, concerned about erratic behavior.
She was acting out.
You have concerns about her mental health?
Yes, 100%.
A county spokesperson issued a statement citing the active criminal investigation and strict state confidentiality laws. They refused to disclose any details regarding family services involvement. But a neighbor clearly saw something dangerous from their own window. She saw something troubling enough to ring a child protective agency. Was she alone? Place her warning beside Deshaun Chatman's 5 to 6 year campaign of desperate calls, legal filings, and welfare checks. A legal father spent years begging the system to look inside that house, while a neighbor with zero legal standing noticed the same darkness. A neighbor with absolutely no blood connection acted purely on instinct. 2 callers, different angles attacking the exact same institutional wall. Chatman insists red flags blared. He says Mila Chatman was his daughter. Hiding his face, He demands all focus remain strictly on those victimized sisters.
This didn't have to happen like this. Mila had a father, prison father, that wanted her.
He admits going years without seeing his daughter, claiming Henderson severed contact after he dialed Child Protective Services regarding a direct threat against Mila.
Come get this crybaby ass baby or I'm gonna kill her.
Was that just a frustrated mom?
I don't know if that was a frustrated mom or a deranged woman, but I'm gonna go with the deranged woman if you ask me.
By the time officials finally breached that front door, one child stood healthy, while two rotted in the dirt. We possess zero proof of how DCFS handled Kreider's call, or if it triggered an assigned investigation. Did a caseworker physically visit? Did anybody even bother knocking on her door? Reporters pushed Cuyahoga County about Chatman's custody battles. Officials issued another sterile statement, hiding behind the active investigation and Ohio confidentiality laws, refusing to disclose anything. They keep that massive wall up. We verify she made the call. Media coverage documents it deeply as crucial investigative context. Authorities build this case upon what the system utterly failed to accomplish. A frantic neighbor dialing for help is never a minor detail. It acts as a vital thread. In these cases, threads exist to unravel the truth. This investigation breathes. The second they unseal the cause of death, schedule a trial, or Deshaun Chatman speaks publicly, I will drop that coverage. If you watch without subscribing and hitting that bell, you will miss it. Smash that bell right now so notifications hit your device. Brace yourself. This case lacks a single point of failure. One mistake would actually feel easier to stomach. One incompetent caseworker. One dropped call. One judge reading a file backward. We could fix one isolated error and move forward. But this represents a catastrophic cascade of systemic failures across multiple agencies over multiple years. 2 children lay dead while a third survived completely unharmed inside the exact same house. A legally recognized parent phoned Child Protective Services. The agency processed the alerts, but their response spanning multiple years never managed to actually lay eyes on Mila Chatman before she died. Deshaun Chatman states he filed between 5 and 6 emergency custody petitions with the courts. These specific emergency petitions demand a high legal burden of proof, yet they also compel the presiding court to actively review the submitted evidence. Judges issued their rulings. Those rulings left Mila trapped inside Henderson's custody. Would the police intervene? Dispatchers relayed welfare check requests. Officers approached the residence and knocked. Whatever details officers observed, or whatever limited access Henderson granted them, failed to launch any formal protective intervention. The local school district noticed absolutely nothing because Henderson homeschooled the girls. Teachers, counselors, and administrators form a mandatory reporting safety net. That net stayed entirely dark. These girls occupied a legal blind spot. No professional bound by state law to report suspected abuse ever saw their faces. Child Protective Services mandate a strict legal threshold before they pull a child from a residence. Suspicion changes nothing. Concern changes nothing. A father executing a documented, multi-year campaign through formal legal channels falls short if the visiting system cannot directly witness the danger, especially if social workers cannot breach the front door. The state demands hard evidence of imminent harm. Picture a household conducting homeschool. The doors stay shut. The mother dictates every single point of entry. Documenting imminent harm becomes physically impossible unless someone crosses that threshold first. These girls fell into that exact legal trap. The state demands visible evidence before acting. Henderson locked down the visibility. The victims possessed the age and vocabulary to speak up. They just never reached anyone who could listen. Who holds the blame? We confront an uncomfortable truth. Child protective systems across this country operate chronically underfunded, chronically understaffed, and chronically overwhelmed. Caseworkers shoulder caseloads, shattering any reasonable standard. The courts drown in backlogs. Police welfare checks function as rapid triage operations. None of this excuses the fates of Amor Wilson and Ma Chatman. We must understand these structural conditions if society ever expects them to change. In this specific case, the structure remains completely unchanged. Prosecutors charged Henderson. Yet the exact system that failed these victims remains entirely intact. What did search teams find? Detectives finally breached the doors. The immediate, verified facts confirm the third child emerged from that structure, completely alive and visibly healthy. Cleveland police executed a search warrant and officially confirmed they recovered what they termed substantial evidence directly tied to the case. The medical examiner sealed the cause of death. Prosecutors reviewed the internal findings and felt confident enough to hit Aliyah Henderson with the most severe murder charge legally available to them. They filed it twice. Crime scene protocols demand comprehensive analysis when investigators discover dead children inside a residence. Technicians scrutinize nutritional indicators and inventory the kitchen. Investigators document food access and hunt for malnourishment indicators across the living spaces. They evaluate beds to determine if specific children endured demonstrably different conditions. Detectives catalog the existing belongings. They note what is missing. Did the house retain signs of these girls living there? Or did someone erase their existence? Technicians extract digital evidence from phones. They pull data from tablets and computers. They map search histories, texts, and the final photograph taken of each victim. They isolate the timestamp on the final communication mentioning their names. A household's digital footprint going entirely dark on a specific human being carries a precise date. Investigators compare the timelines. How does the surviving child's living environment contrast with the evidence detailing Amor and Mila's daily existence inside that structure? Physical and digital evidence could expose differential treatment. Furthermore, the currently sealed cause of death might detail a highly specific manner of dying. Detectives currently hold an evidentiary picture that the state refuses to let the public see just yet. What does it reveal? We refuse to narrate what that picture illustrates. We lack factual confirmation simply because the medical examiner sealed the autopsy. We avoid speculation. This channel absolutely refuses to blindly guess the details surrounding 2 dead children and 1 living sibling. We focus entirely on what the legal seal itself signals to us. The state filed the maximum available charges. The coroner finished the autopsy. The state immediately protected the results. Detectives refused to view one glaring detail as a mere coincidence. A surviving child emerged perfectly healthy from the exact same house where 2 others ended up buried outside. That evidentiary record builds a vivid, undeniable picture. The state holds it. The public remains in the dark. The public record confirms the following facts. Aliyah Henderson possessed 0 prior criminal history. She lacked any documented history of violence. Neighbors described her residence as a well-kept home. She raised 3 children. 2 are dead. 2 kids are buried, yet 1 miraculously remains breathing. Police totally refuse to outline a clear motive. Prosecutors leave public documents utterly blank. We completely lack any documented psychiatric history in these files. Aliyah Henderson herself stays perfectly silent behind bars. Not a single official will even dare guess why this mother slaughtered 2 daughters, while purposefully sparing the third. Does that profound silence disturb you? The killings alone aren't the absolute darkest part. Despite the sheer horror, the government's total blackout regarding her twisted reasoning truly chills the blood. When mothers murder children during psychotic breaks, medical files typically document prior hospitalizations or previous severe mental episodes that perfectly explain the unfolding tragedy. Acts of sheer rage usually leave massive trails of police visits, frantic domestic calls, and rapidly escalating threats. Investigators always track those distinct patterns. Even killings driven strictly by financial ruin produce undeniable paper trails. The background of Aliyah Henderson lacks every single warning. 0 past violence, 0 mental crises, and 0 visible escalation exist for public viewing. What do we actually know? She legally changed her identity back in 2017. Landlords successfully evicted her in 2022, listing both young girls alive on paperwork. She actively hid them through deceptive homeschooling. She nurtured 1 child flawlessly while secretly burying 2 others exactly 25 feet apart inside a deserted lot, directly beside a local neighborhood school. A neighbor witnessed pure madness before authorities ever managed to crack the case open. Meanwhile, the victim's father burned 5 to 6 years, exhausting every legal avenue to find his kids. A bystander staring blankly at the crime scene captured the profound tragedy perfectly, attempting to grasp an entirely inhuman act straight from the concrete sidewalk. They muttered that nobody believes a mother could slaughter her own flesh. She held endless opportunities to surrender them to loving arms. She could have easily walked away. She could have vanished into the night. Chatman begged to raise them for 6 straight years. She could have gladly handed them over to protective state agencies without consequence. Dumping them on a random porch would have kept them breathing. She deliberately chose a totally permanent, highly fatal path instead of mercy. Now, the coroner's report holding crucial biological answers sits firmly locked away. Authorities completely refuse to officially assign a reason for this carnage. 10-year-old Amor Wilson and 8-year-old Mila Chatman now rot beneath the earth forever. Who will speak for them? Child welfare workers currently protect the breathing third child. The terrifying, massive canyon separating those brutally slaughtered girls from the sole surviving sister living under the watchful care of state protection services leaves us asking one question: what truly happened? This remains the most deeply haunting mystery anchoring this entire investigation. Authorities currently hold Aliyah Henderson captive inside the Cuyahoga County Jail on a $2 million bond. Prosecutors slammed her with dual aggravated murder charges alongside severe child endangerment. We still await an official trial schedule. The justice system currently grinds through early pre-trial motions. Here is exactly how this plays out. Rival attorneys will aggressively negotiate all admissible evidence. The local public defender's office officially represents Henderson in this fight. Chief Public Defender Cullen Sweeney stayed completely silent post-arraignment, though his defense team will inevitably attack the state's forensic methodologies and hidden autopsy findings. Before this legal war finally concludes, lawyers will absolutely expose the exact physical mechanism of death publicly via pre-trial motions or intense courtroom showdowns. A plea deal remains possible. Otherwise, an aggravated murder conviction in Ohio guarantees Henderson life behind bars, or potentially a lethal injection, depending heavily on specific filings from the state. State law strictly requires prosecutors to file highly specific aggravating factors to legally execute a killer. Officials totally refuse to confirm if they plan to seek the ultimate, permanent capital punishment. Chatman wasted 5 to 6 agonizing years, battling local bureaucracy to reach his little girl, facing constant official rejection at every turn, only to lose her forever. Will negligent government agencies face any actual consequences for blocking a desperate father? That vital debate remains entirely separate from Henderson's criminal prosecution. Civil attorneys could easily launch a wrongful death lawsuit tomorrow morning. Nobody has publicly announced those specific legal intentions just yet. Child Protective Services quietly shields the surviving sibling. Important details regarding their private foster placement, critical therapeutic care, and future upbringing will appropriately remain completely hidden from massive public consumption moving forward, forever. However, society must never ignore the glaring, terrifying issue this bloody massacre forces directly into the national spotlight. What extreme measures does America actually require to physically shield entirely innocent kids from their own homicidal parents when the system fails? Think about the thousands of fathers mirroring Chatman right now, bombarding child services, petitioning judges, demanding urgent wellness checks, and hitting rigid bureaucratic brick walls while unseen horrors unfold behind locked suburban doors. We all inherently own this catastrophic failure. It falls on everyone, not merely detectives, district attorneys, or A. Kreider, who frantically called police before unearthing those buried corpses. Every single one of us. Trust your instincts if you notice a vulnerable child facing hidden danger. Speak up immediately. One call was made before anyone uncovered the nightmare. They didn't dismiss their gut feeling. They flat out refused to brush it off as someone else's business. The Child Help National Child Abuse Hotline is 1-800-4224-453. Highly trained operators stand ready 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You don't need absolute certainty or undeniable proof. You just need to pick up the phone. Dear Kreider placed that exact call before police found anyone. But did authorities respond before the clock ran out? We don't have the answer yet. We only know speaking up was the correct move. Once the official cause of death is unsealed, and this unimaginable tragedy faces trial, the moment Deshaun Chatman speaks again, or investigators tear into the system's failure to answer his pleas, we'll break it down right here. Check the description below for our verified case files. We vetted every hyperlink. You won't find any rumors down there. Did this video spark a new theory, or expose a detail that flips your entire perspective? Share it. Sound off in the comments section. Forward this to anyone tracking the investigation. If you aren't subscribed yet, hit that button right now. We apply this intense level of scrutiny to every case we cover. Our next deep dive is in production. Amor Wilson was 10 years old. Mila Chatman was 8 years old. She absolutely loved pink. In her innocent heart, she was a princess. Their father fought relentlessly for them, pounding on every door the bureaucracy allowed him to approach. A vigilant neighbor spotted a red flag and dialed for help. The system, whether by flaw or deliberate design, robbed these two children of every fighting chance. Speaking their names aloud is our bare minimum today. Our ultimate responsibility is ensuring the next child caught in this nightmare has a lifeline that reaches them in.